Hey guys, it's Ben. Back in late January of this year, I presented this puzzle, the Thunder Cube, which was the first void speed cube ever made. Turned pretty good. Well, this has had its time, and now I'm very excited to present its replacement. This is the Thunder Cube version 2. I redesigned this puzzle, and I'm very pleased with it. I've been trying to work to get to a void speed cube that I'm really happy with. The first one I wasn't completely happy with. It was a bit blocky. It had some issues with some floppiness on the pieces. But this version has seen quite a few improvements. So, anyway, at first glance you'll notice that the cube actually looks a little bit different. But as you can see, it's completely void, nothing in there. And again, I shouldn't show this in the first video, but I guess I should have. You can, again, stick your finger through it, and it works. So, it is completely void. So, a couple things have changed with this new design. One of the main things that you can see here is that the actual rounding of the pieces has been enlarged. On the original cube, it wasn't very rounded off, as you can see. It was just ever so slight, and it didn't really make a difference, and it was really a very square void. But on this puzzle, as you can see, it's kind of more rounded, and you can kind of really see that. And the other thing that's really cool is I was able to make the void match the rounding. So you can actually see that right there. It actually matches the rounding on the pieces. So this is unlike the first version where you can kind of see how it's just kind of a corner there. But on here, that does not exist. So the void is a little bit larger, it feels a little bit larger, and then of course the spherical void in there just makes it feel great. So the thing about a void speed cube is there's really a lot of challenges in designing this puzzle. I've faced a lot of them with this. The difficult thing about this puzzle is to not only make it work really well, to be a very good speed cube that turns really smoothly, but the other challenge is to make it look really good too, because it is a void cube. There are some limitations, especially with the mechanism. So I think I've done a pretty good job here. The problem I had was to figure out how to make that void larger and match the rounding on the pieces. And the solution that I used is, if you can see this here, I don't know if you can, but you can kind of see on the edge piece that when I rounded it off, the chamfers are at angles. And this is actually really similar to the rounding you see on the Moyu Huelong, with the rounding on the edge pieces kind of being at an angle rather than 45 degrees to the edge. And corners are just rounded in a similar way, and then the centers, but this cube doesn't have center, so it's not visible. But I rounded it, or shaved it off at an angle. And that means that because of that angle, I still have a lot of room to add reverse cutting in there. But yet, because it doesn't go so far up into there like that, I can make the void match the rounding much better than I could if I just made it straight. So that's one thing I did, and I think that really makes the cube look much better. One thing I must say is that this cube is ever so slightly larger than a regular cube. It's 58 millimeters to an edge. I didn't want to make it this way, but I had no choice due to the limitations of the mechanism. I was basically very low on the amount of room that I had to fit everything inside, so I decided to make it 58 millimeters, but it actually doesn't really make a difference when you're solving. At least I don't feel any difference. Okay, so enough about the specs of this puzzle. Let's get on with the actual performance. So, as you see earlier, the cube works very well. Corner cutting is almost line to line on my tensions. Probably adjusted tensions a little more, you could actually get exactly line to line. And reverse cutting is about a third of the void. So I don't know if you can see that, but that reverse cut's about a third of the void, which is much better than on this cube. But yeah, see, it just locks up right there. This one, corner cuts, reverse cuts, a third of the void away. With the tensions that I have on, it's not quite as good. By adjusting them a little bit more, they can actually improve it, maybe get about half a cubey, half the void for reverse cutting. So that actually makes quite a bit of a difference. So this cube works really well. The performance is great. All the layers just turn extremely smoothly. It's very light feel. And the other thing is it's much more stable. So if I compare these two cubes, if I shake this one, you can hear how rattly it is. But if I do it to this one, it's much quieter. Very silent. So you don't really hear that rattling. And that just means that this is much more stable and secure. And the layers fit together better. And it also turns a lot looser and smoother. The other one has quite a stiff turning style to it. This is not as bad. So I'm showing you the performance now, but I think really the best way that I can really show the performance of this cube is with some solves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare some solves between multiple different cubes compared to this one. I'm going to do a solve with this cube and compare it to a regular Rubik's Void cube and also to a regular speed cube, so you can really see the comparison and how this cube really functions. So I'm going to show that to you now.
So just a quick note before we begin, I am by no means a serious speed cuber, so don't expect anything amazing from this, but we'll start anyway. So as you can see, the Thunder Cube is basically turning pretty much just as quickly as the regular cube on the right, which is a YJ long, and the cube on the left is just the regular Rubik's Void cube. And as you can see, it's turning much more slowly because of the lack of corner cutting. But even so, the U-long still finishes first. But to give it some credit, the Thunder Cube solve here did have a parity which took a little bit longer, but it still finished relatively quickly. We'll just speed this up here, and we're done. Now on to the next solve. This one I did a little bit better, but it's still turning just as good as before. This time I did not get a parity on this solve, so that's one of the reasons I did better, but also it's just better look ahead and such. As you can see, the Thunder Cube actually finished right behind the YJ Speed Cube, so it was actually really close this time. And again, we'll speed up the rest of the footage of the other cube. And that's it.
Okay, so as you have seen from that previous footage there, this cube performs very well, and it performs much better than a regular Rubik's Void cube, but at the same time, it's probably not quite yet up to par to a speed cube you buy off the market. In my experience with this cube, I think that this can be easily compared to a YJ Guanlong or Qilong, Sulong, one of those kind of cubes that works really well, but it can kind of lack a little bit in some areas. But for the most part, it's very stable. That's the other thing I find, is that this cube just doesn't pop. You can't really get the pieces to pop out. They're very secure, and especially the corners. And no corner twists will ever happen with this. I guarantee it. As long as you tension it correctly, you're not going to get any corner twists, which is great. So that's another really big bonus with this cube that I really like. Another reason that I really like using it. So of course, all of you probably want to know if this is available for you to buy, and it is. I have now made this cube available on my iMaterialize shop to purchase, and I'm really excited about this. I really want to be able to make this cube available to people because it's just a really unique cube, really unique design for it as well. So anyway, it's available on my iMaterialize shop right now for about $100. I unfortunately cannot make it any more inexpensive than that. This is not the Shapeways old pricing model. If it was, this would be much cheaper. But you kind of have to cope with the times, I guess. So this cube is about $100 on the shop with as a DIY kit. if you want to purchase a fully assembled cube, is $120. So again, I'm trying to really make these puzzles available to as many people as I can, because I know that not everyone can really afford to get a 3D printed cube. So I'm trying my best, and I'm doing okay. But yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much about it for this cube. I just wanted to announce that I have redesigned it and have made it available to people, and I'm just really excited, and I just wanted to share it with all of you. So anyway, I'm really pleased, and I hope you guys are too. So anyway, that's about it for the Thunder Cube version 2. Hope you liked the puzzle, and thanks for watching.